You know, one of the biggest requests I get for a video series is to do something that everyone likes to call overused weapons. Because let's face it, the bread and butter of my channel for a really long time was the Underused Weapons series, that and the Showdown. And I've always prided myself on being good with all sorts of different weapons. And everybody asked me to do an overused weapons series. They're like, Jake, do overused weapons. You got to do it. I mean, it's just something that you must talk about someday. And I figured today should probably be that day. Why on earth do I always feel the need to use weapons that are, I guess, hipster weapons, weapons that not everybody uses, the underused weapons, the underappreciated weapons in the game? You know, there's a simple answer to that, and that, frankly, is I like to have variety and I like to have fun. I think that's what a video game's all about, and I think if you're not using everything the game has to offer, it gets quite boring. And I almost find learning the other weapons to be pretty challenging, and it's fun. I think that adds a new level to Battlefield. I mean, when you get bored with the game, obviously you're going to start exploring new weapons and having fun. But this game in particular, I was like, okay, I'm going to start off with the engineer with the typical M4, nothing special, your pretty standard engineer kit. And then I switched to, dun dun dun, the AEK. Because in yesterday's video, I talked a little bit about the weapon that I tend to get annoyed with most, and that's the AEK. Because it is the weapon that I find hardest to counter. Because if you find someone who's really, really good with the AEK, there's not much that can top it. I mean, it's 900 rounds per minute in your face, 25 damage. It's really good. Not to mention you can have a health pack, you can revive people. It's pretty much everything you could ever want out of an assault rifle, especially on some of these maps like Grand Bazaar, Operation Metro, all the close quarters maps. So after that conversation, I was playing with some buddies and I was like, you know what? I'm going to put on the AEK because a lot of people ask me about the overused weapons, and I was like, okay, I'll show you why I don't like using them. And look at this. This weapon kills quickly. I don't think you guys need me to tell you that. You've probably experienced it a million times over at this point. Battlefield 3 has been out forever. Everyone's experienced the wrath that is the AEK and the M16. A pretty standard theme. Everybody gets mad at the level 100 colonels who use these weapons, but I think one thing I've learned from the underused weapons is that I've actually gotten better as a player, and I don't know what's going on there. I guess that box was blocking me from knifing him, but I get him eventually, but it causes me to die. That was kind of frustrating. But I think using the underused weapons has actually made me better because I've learned not to be so gung-ho when it comes to fighting. I've learned to pick my battles a lot better. I've learned to be a little bit more of a passive player, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people hear that and they're like, oh, you're a camper, huh? And that's not necessarily the case. I'm just more patient. I'm just not stupid with my movements. I try not to waste my movements. I think that's the moral of the story here is I try to be smart with the way I navigate maps. And that's partly because a lot of the weapons that no one likes in the game, the lesser weapons, we'll call them that, they have lower fire rates, and lower fire rate weapons do limit you on what you can do. Usually in longer range engagements, lower fire rate weapons do better. Higher fire rate weapons with higher recoil tend to do a lot poorer. So I think having that notion has made me a better player, made me a better all-around player. It's helped my aim a lot because I put on the AEK in this match and I was like, man, what's going on here? People are just absolutely just dropping to the ground. And then I realized, I was like, oh, so that's what it's like to use these weapons. And I couldn't force myself to put on the M16. I kept talking about it with Mantis. I was like, okay, I'm going to use the M16. I'm going to try it out just for this video. And then I realized, I was like, nah, I can't do it, man. I just could not force myself to use that weapon. And oddly enough, it is in my top 5 right now. But, in the back of my mind, I know that probably 300 to 400 of the kills I have with the M16 are with the M16A4, which, in my opinion, is a completely different weapon. I have no idea why they decided to combine those two, but they did, so I guess we kind of have to live with it. But, in my mind, I know the truth that Jake has mostly just used it with the M16A4. But that's not to say that Wallace hasn't had his fair share of usage with the M16A3. So a little quick video today just showing off the AEK, just showing how quickly you can just dominate a game with this thing. So, using the underused weapons, there is a reason why I do it. It's to keep myself sane. It's to keep myself entertained with Battlefield 3. And hey, I feel like it's personally helped me grow as a Battlefield player. But if you missed my past videos, here's a chance to catch up, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.